Mics are hot. Switching over. Oh, we'll record the show, Corey.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I don't see the little thing up there.
Utter and complete domination. Penn State beats Iowa 31-0, shutting out the Hawkeyes. Coming at you with our first thoughts, some film breakdown, and Penn State gets 2 new commits in the 2025 class. All that and more in just 1 second. Please make sure you have subscribed wherever you're listening to this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to like and subscribe to State Media. Thank you. Welcome into Hardcore Penn State Football. I'm Cory Lestochi. With me, as always, the great Sean Kane. How are you doing today, Sean?
Cory, I had an awesome weekend. How about you?
I had a very good weekend as well.
Was it helped by your sport teams?
Yeah, it really couldn't have gone any better. Just what a day on Saturday. What an absolute day. From start to finish, what a day. Just couldn't have asked for it to go any better. And don't have to tell our listeners how much I don't like Iowa. But I just sat there and watched that dismantling, and nobody was happier than me. I'm sure maybe James Franklin was happier, but I was a close second behind James Franklin.
Yeah, I mean, you just think about what was said before the game, because pretty much everybody that I saw, almost everybody I saw, was picking Penn State to win the game. But the general consensus was, it'll be close. It's Iowa. They're going to be close. And no, after Cory and I were just talking before we started recording. After the Eric Gall fumble, it was all over. They didn't do anything the rest of the way. Nothing. Completely shut down. More shut down than I thought they'd be. And I wasn't expecting all that much from them. And even, more shut down than pretty much anybody thought. Every prediction I saw had Iowa scoring something. And to shut them out, a team that prides themselves on being gritty and finding sneaky ways to find points, says a lot about your team. And just imagine, Cory, being an Iowa Hawkeyes fan today and a Denver Broncos fan today. Now imagine being a fan on the flip side, being a Miami Dolphins fan and a Penn State football fan. Well, that guy's me, so I am thrilled today.
I knew you were going to get the Dolphins in there somehow. I will give you credit. 70 points is pretty impressive. Yeah, I just wanted to start off the episode by apologizing to Penn State because I was wrong by giving them, and by them I mean Iowa, 14 points. I had 41-14 as my prediction, and that was not the case. That was not the case at all. A lot of people were after me about my 41-14 prediction. I don't know how they're going to score that many points. And people were predicting like 17-10, 21-10. And I don't want to say it's completely bogus that you can't score in the rain, because I'm sure, throwing it deeper down the field makes a difference. But I just wanted to go to, remember this game the next time the weather's in the forecast, because you can indeed score points in the rain. Now, it wasn't even really that hard of rain. It wasn't like the Northwestern game as far as conditions and wind and rain. That was a whole different ball game. But the mist that we got throughout the game really didn't affect either offense. Both offenses were either good or bad for their own reasons. I don't think either of them made too much of a difference as far as playing better in the rain or not. But I want to apologize because I thought I would score something, and that was just disrespectful of me. Penn State completely dominated on defense, and I already saw some people like, oh, well, it's just the Iowa's offense. People are already discrediting this shutout. You shut out a Big Ten opponent. I don't care who it is. Like, People are acting like this is an FCS team. You just beat Iowa and didn't let them give up a single point. They held them under 100 yards of offense. I don't care how bad you think the Iowa offense is. I will give $5 right now to anyone who wants to take the bet that Iowa will score at least, or I shouldn't say score, will at least have 100 yards of total offense in every game from here on out. I don't think people quite understand how difficult that is to do.
You know, in this world we live in, we've kind of lost the art of nuance, and that a few things could be true at the same time. Was Iowa's offense bad? Yeah. Yeah, they were bad. They had no weapons. Brian Ferentz did Brian Ferentz things. Cade McNamara was horrible. But Penn State's defense was also really, really good. I mean, Iowa, they haven't been shut out since the year 2000. So it's not like it's a shutout every other week for Iowa. That's just not true. It takes a Herculean effort to be able to shut out a team that's ranked in the top 25. And okay, maybe you could say maybe they shouldn't be ranked in the top 25, but I still think that's an 8-win team. I still think they're going to win in the West 8. Heck, maybe they get to 9 wins. I don't think they play. Do they play Michigan and Ohio State, or neither of them? So, guys, they might be favored in every game from here on out. It's very possible. Do I think they drop a game or two? Yeah, probably along the way. That offense isn't very good, but that's an 8 or 9 win team, and we shut them out with ease. Like, they didn't get back in the red zone after that Eric All fumble. Like, that was it. That was their whole offense. There was that play, and then there was the Cade McNamara run where nobody in the building was expecting Cade McNamara to keep the ball, and he kept and got a first down. And that was it. Their running backs did nothing. I remember somebody asked us last week, what are we going to do when they line up with like the fullback and the 3 tight ends? Well, that's what we did, guys. I mean, it's if you play good defense, if you play gap sound defense, you're going to be fine, especially when you have the athletes to do it, which we do.
Yeah, you said a lot of great things there. I think it's officially dead because I think at this point, Penn State fans are just waiting for the defense to have a bad rushing defense performance to then say, see, not good against the run. They finally didn't have a good day against the run. And they're just going to ignore all of their good performances. Like, do I see them struggling more to stop the run against Michigan and potentially Ohio State? Yeah, because Michigan and Ohio State are better teams. But does that, does that make them a bad run defense team if they allow some rushing yards against those two opponents? No, it's not really how that works. And I just think that idea has now been tossed aside. You can't tell me that Penn State doesn't have the size to play with these teams when they beat Illinois and Iowa, 2 teams that very much want to run the football, even throw West Virginia into that mix for that reason. So I think the size argument's dead. You play schematically sound football, gap sound football, you're going to be fine. And again, Penn State will have moments where they're going to struggle because they like to take chances with their defensive line. Michigan will probably break a big run against Penn State. But just because they break a big run doesn't mean this defense isn't good against the run. Now, we come back after the Michigan-Ohio State game and they give a bunch of yards and 400 yards. Okay, we can have a conversation about what Michigan is doing specifically. But overall, generally, I'm pretty content. I'm pretty happy with where this defense is from all standpoints, obviously, but even from the run defense standpoint as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that happen when, I think Penn State fans are a little bit traumatized from what happened at the Big House last year, and yeah, I mean, it was bad, and everybody acknowledges it. But number one, that was last season, and you also have to keep in mind any scheme that's, especially one that's good, in year 2 it's going to be better. And this defense looks really, really comfortable playing with the playing in this scheme. And yeah, everybody knows the big test. The big tests are coming, and I get it. I get it. But I think we also have to. I think we as Penn State fans have to do a better job of smelling the roses a little bit and being grateful for what happened on Saturday and saying, "Wow, that was a great win." Without the knee jerk reaction with some in the fan base going, "What about Ohio State? What about Michigan?" Like, guys, we know, you sound like when you're having fun on a Saturday night and you're having a good time, you're at a bar or a club or whatever your thing is, and everybody's grooving, and there's that one guy there that goes, it's gonna be Monday soon, and it's like, why are you killing the vibe? Just enjoy it.
Right.
Relax a little bit. What has Ohio State or Michigan shown so far that makes you think that we're doomed when we play them? I haven't seen a goddamn thing, to be completely honest with you, that makes me think that there's no chance for us to beat Ohio State or Michigan. Ohio State should have lost on Saturday, but Notre Dame went full Dallas Cowboys like they always do. Accident waiting to happen, and they lost. And Michigan, I'm sorry, I haven't been thrilled with any of their games that they played. And I'm not going to guarantee you we're going to win both of them or even one of them. But let's pump the brakes a little bit. Just try to enjoy the show.
Yeah. I kind of feel bad for those people to a certain degree, right? Like if you couldn't enjoy Penn State blanking Iowa at home in a whiteout, and the only thing you could think about was whether or not they could do that to Ohio State or Michigan, like I don't think you quite understand how college football works. They go 10-2 again. You still, I understand there's an opportunity to be disappointed there, but you've got to enjoy each game when that game happens. So I agree with what you said, Sean. I do want to give a shout out to the fans. Rainy in the forecast, rainy all day, rainy all night, and didn't matter. They stayed very strong whiteout, still very clearly a whiteout, not a lot of yellow ponchos. And even when it was a blowout, they were still there. I mean, nobody really left going into I think cleared out a little bit once it was 24-0, but it was still pretty packed for the majority of that game, especially when it was pretty clear that Iowa wasn't going to be able to do very much with the football.
I was pleasantly surprised with how well the fans did. And I probably shouldn't be, and because we have the best fans maybe in sports supporting our team. But it's a lot of people, when they're mildly inconvenienced, they just throw their hands up and go, well, I'm not going to do it. But these fans, not only did they show up and have the second and help lead to the second most attended game in Beaver Stadium history, not only did they do that, they all participated, wore white. If they didn't have a white coat, they got a white poncho. If they did have a white coat, maybe they had to dig in their closet and find one, they wore it. And huge kudos to them, because I was watching it on TV. It sounded loud the whole game. Like they didn't turn it off at all. And this was one, for a myriad of reasons, our fans really wanted. And I think the fans were really hurt personally from 2021. Not only with them, booing our injured guys and how bad that was, but just the way that the game went down, losing Cliff when everybody and their brother knows we win that game if Sean Clifford stays in. And I know Iowa fans like to live in fantasy world where they act like they still would have won, but everybody knew the way that game was going. And I'd like to get Hack's opinion on this, actually, about because you touched on it before about the rain and the wind. I wonder if it's harder to throw the ball in the rain or the wind. Like, what leads to more errant passes, and what are tougher conditions to throw the ball in? Because Drew was lights out. It was efficient. He didn't have the gaudy passing yards, but he was just so efficient and patient and made some big boy throws in the red zone.
Yeah, we'll get to offense and defense breakdown in a second here. Sean, one last thing. Gonna give you a second here to eat a little bit of crow on Cade McNamara.
Huh. Well, guys, I mean, I never said the guy was great. Like, everybody's like, not everybody. It's Cory and our buddy Mike, love to rub the Cade McNamara thing in with me. But, I mean, all I've ever said about Cade was he was good enough to be the quarterback on a team that made the playoffs. He beat Ohio State. I know lots of quarterbacks that we really like that didn't beat Ohio State, one in particular.
Are you doubling down?
No, I'm just stating facts. I mean, the guy got to the college football playoff, which we've never done. He's beaten Ohio State, which we haven't done since 2016. I never said the guy was very good. He needs conditions to be.
You did say he was good. I remember good. If we go back before even the 2021 season started, I believe you had Cade McNamara above Sean Clifford as quarterbacks you would take
before the 2022 season.
Correct. Yeah, sorry.
Correct. I did indeed. And depends on the team you have.
For what? You're telling me right now you would depend on the team.
Would I take Sean Clifford to elevate my team? I would. I would take Sean Clifford on a team that that's like Iowa, because Sean Clifford's a gunslinger. He's going to drive you nuts sometimes, but he's also going to win you some games. Kind of like a Ryan Fitzpatrick of college football, in that he's going to drive you crazy, but that Fitzmagic comes out sometimes. And when you see it, it's a wonderful thing. Cade McNamara, when conditions are right around him, not when he has zero playmakers and no run game and an average offensive line, he ain't elevating anything. I mean, he's not going to make anybody better around him, and I never said he could. So it really depends on what you have. If you have a team like Michigan, yeah, I'd probably take Cade McNamara over him, yeah.
That's just barnacles.
Sean Clifford's probably going to lose me 2 games.
Sean Clifford also never had. That's the difference, right? Like, we see what Cade McNamara had when he didn't have a surrounding cast. And you see what Sean Clifford had when he didn't have a surrounding cast. We never really got to see a world where Sean Clifford had a support staff like Cade McNamara had at Michigan. Never had something like that.
Yeah, he never had the offensive line that Cade had in 2021 ever. And he didn't have as good of a defense as he had in 2021, where he only had to put up. Well, they put up a lot of points against Ohio State, but they only scored 21 on us in 2021. So
right. I'll just finish with 5 for 14, 42 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Also had, I think technically he had 3 fumbles. They didn't give him the fumble for the. They didn't give him. Oh no, they did. They did 2 fumbles. 2 fumbles. The one was the backup quarterback. I forgot. Terrible, in my opinion, but that's just me, I guess.
I mean, he was awful. I mean, I'm not gonna. He was terrible.
I seriously, like, you could seriously make the argument that Michigan wins the national championship if it wasn't for Cade McNamara. Seriously,
no way.
Seriously,
their defense got exposed against Georgia. Because they're on the field the entire. He didn't do anything either.
Because they're on the field the entire game. Because Cade McNamara was nothing. Georgia didn't have to scheme for him at all. He was just useless. They would have
lost to Georgia still.
Maybe. I'm not saying they would have 100% won.
He didn't help things. He was bad too. But
you could make the argument if Cade McNamara was good at all, they could have won. And he's not. He's terrible. The fact that you say you might want him over Sean Clifford? No, he didn't. He did not beat Ohio State. He did not beat them. His team did. He did not.
Do you think quarterback wins are a stat?
Okay, let me say this. Rex Grossman, would you consider him a good quarterback? No.
No, but he was good enough to get to a Super Bowl.
Oh,
He
man.
was.
That's
Would
not
I
the
take him
argument.
as my franchise quarterback? No, you have to be on crack to do that. But he got to a Super Bowl.
You are putting too much stock into being a game manager, especially at the college football level. Like the NFL, you could almost maybe get away with it, but Cade McNamara did nothing for that Michigan team, and he's doing nothing for this Iowa team either.
Like I said, don't expect him to elevate anything.
That's what a good
He
quarterback
won't.
does. That's literally what a good quarterback
I'm not
is.
even
It's a
calling him
definition.
good. He
You're
was
saying he's better than Clifford?
more accomplished than Clifford, isn't he?
Oh,
Look,
all
Tom
right,
Brady,
we're moving
people
on.
say is the greatest athlete ever, which is absurd. That people think he's a better athlete than Muhammad Ali or Michael Phelps. But people say this with a straight face, and it's only because he's the most accomplished quarterback ever. When I've seen 3 or 4 quarterbacks in my lifetime throw the ball better than Tom Brady. But why did they say he's the GOAT? Why? Because he has the most rings. He's the most accomplished. So that's why people say he's the GOAT. And that's it. That's the only reason they say it.
No, that's not
So,
true.
I mean, it is. He doesn't throw the ball better than Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't throw the ball better than Patrick Mahomes. He didn't even throw Peyton Manning. Okay, maybe. But regular season quarterback, he wasn't better than Peyton Manning. And
But
that's
you're
just the people
talking.
I've seen.
But again, you're talking from a physical trait perspective. There's more to that than playing quarterback. I'm saying Cade McNamara doesn't have even any of those intangibles either. Congratulations, you don't throw the ball more than 5 yards per attempt. You don't get an award for that. Tom Brady, maybe not like maybe you're thinking more like 2013, 2014 Tom Brady, but go back into the early 2000s. Like Tom Brady could sling the ball, and
Like Mossy could, yeah.
I'm not saying he had a better arm talent than like an Aaron Rodgers. All I'm trying to say is he did those things good enough. Maybe not the best specifically at running or accuracy or throw power, but he did those things good enough on top of his intangibles as a leader and as a game like uh uh like setting up the game and preparing for the game and pre-snap. Cade McNamara doesn't bring any of that to your table. That's what I'm talking about. So I see what you're saying. Like Tom Brady, people as far as like true physical athlete, no. But he's the best quarterback to ever play in the NFL because he could do all the physical things well enough and he had all the intangibles. I guess does still have the intangibles. But what I'm saying is Cade McNamara didn't have those physical traits that JJ McCarthy possesses and
That's true.
didn't have anything else even related to those intangibles to help elevate his team either. The only thing good about Cade McNamara was he did nothing. And that defense was so good. Seriously, that was the best thing he did was do nothing. You could have seriously like realistically, you could have probably won the same amount of games as Spencer Petras as your quarterback for Michigan that year. Seriously. Useless.
Nah, he was better than Petras. It's not high praise, believe me.
Right.
but
then how do you go from better than Petras to, well, I'd still maybe take him over Clifford?
Because he accomplished more.
Okay. We're in a circle. We're in an
But like I
endless circle
said,
here.
would I take Clifford to elevate my team? Yeah. But Clifford,
Why? Tell me why you wouldn't want your quarterback to be able to elevate your team. In what situation?
because
Let
he can
me transition over here.
Cade McNamara with the right team, not with the team that has no athletes, where your best player is your backup tight end. Yeah, he ain't gonna do anything with that. Not gonna happen. With Sean Clifford, if you're asking him to manage a team for a season, he's going to have some really bad games, even with good talent around him. It's just going to happen. I mean, again, he's like Fitzmagic. There are going to be times like the Utah game where he's lights out. And then there are going to be games where he throws 4 interceptions.
Did he ever have a game where he threw 4 interceptions?
Like the Ohio State game this past year. Or he had 4 turnovers.
I think he had. Well, one is definitely
one
a
of them might have
fumble.
been a fumble. Yeah.
But
But
again, that's your example. That's what you're gonna pull as your example. The Ohio State game.
yeah, he never beat them.
We're moving on because you're being crazy now. You're bringing up those turnovers as your reasoning when you know those turnovers were not his fault 90% of the time, especially in Ohio State game specifically. Do I agree with you that he had erratic moments? Yes, but that those few times that he was really erratic doesn't come close to what you're getting with Cade McNamara. And
Yeah,
I literally
and
have proof of that with the 5 or 14 performance by your boy Cade.
he's not my boy.
I think
And
he
then you
might be.
have and then do we forget about the COVID season
Yeah, I did.
where
I
he
do.
was awful for the
Yeah.
first half of it?
Oh, I agree with that. But I do forget that.
Okay. And some people honestly, and I think you can make legitimate arguments that the COVID season you have to put a big asterisk next to it. Okay. But
Pick 'em.
all right. Yes, we spent a lot of time on that.
Shawn is so actually I had to say sorry to my boy Cory because I did not count his pick 'em for last week. So we thought Shawn was alone at the top, but Cory was actually tied with you at the time. And so you guys did the same this past week. And so you guys are still tied at the top. But everyone else is creeping in on you guys. We got me, Cowboy Ribeye, and Brennan Malinovich all got one more spot closer to you. And so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people within 1 point of each other at the top, and then 2 more at 48 points. So it's getting close at the top, Shawn.
Learned a valuable lesson. Don't ever expect Notre Dame to do anything.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
pick them to cover though, so that kind of canceled out the 1 point that I lost. But
Nobody
I
was
mean,
perfect this week, if that makes you feel better.
yeah, it was a tough week. It was a tough week to predict. A couple games could have went either way, and like the Minnesota Northwestern game. I mean, you said that was going to be close. That's a good job by you.
Yeah, I
But
didn't realize until obviously I got home from the whiteout that
yeah,
they came all the way back and won. I was like, wow, it was like
yeah.
bad early. It was 21-0.
Boy, that's a bad loss for PJ Fleck.
Yeah. And
Like
so
that's a
they came
game
all the way
go.
back.
Yeah, like going in, you're almost even a team like Minnesota, who's very mediocre. You have penciled in as a win because you're like, all right, we'll beat Northwestern, and to lose to them is just with nobody at the stadium. That stadium was completely empty. I
Yeah, it
mean,
looked like a high school game. That one did help me out quite a bit, but a lot of people got the games covered right. I think only like 1 or 2 people missed on like the 2 bonus points. So solid job there. And that's where we're at. So thank you guys for playing along with us there. Go back to over here. Um, okay, before we get in the offense and defense side of things, no, we're good. Let's talk recruiting. Penn State gets 2 new commits as of the last 2 days. The power of the whiteout, Shawn. Would you agree to that?
oh, no doubt. I mean, the whiteout, I think Sean Fitz said on his pod on Blue White Illustrated, the 3 big recruiting weekends for Penn State, the whiteout, Lash Bash, and the Blue White game. And like the whiteout, especially when you win, I mean, it's it always delivers. I mean, it was a cold, rainy night, and those kids, I mean, they looked like they were having the time of their life. So, I mean, it's such a big advantage that we have in recruiting because you can't replicate it. And you could have your orange outs, you could have knockoff white outs, you could have a red out or whatever, or a blackout. There's nothing like what we have in Happy Valley. And we should be, again, I think today's theme is be grateful. And we should absolutely 100% be grateful for the whiteout. Yay, us.
Yeah. And again, like what I heard, like they had over 110 players there, over 54 players had scholarship offers. And you're like, okay, is it going to be a good weather, or is at least the whiteout going to look good? Because that could make a lasting poor impact on a lot of those players. And the atmosphere was still fantastic. So it was good there. Penn State picks up a commit from linebacker DJ McClary from New Jersey. Top 150 player, top 15 linebacker, top 5 in the state of New Jersey. Not really sure if he's going to play inside or outside yet, Sean, but he is a huge pickup. Like this is a big time 4-star commit. Um, Potential to rise as well. I know we feel like we always say that, but I just mean he's highly touted right now, and that could increase over the next year and a half.
Yeah, I loved watching his highlights because number one, he hits very, very hard. He's a good high school running back as well. And even as a running back, he's still looking to hit people and still looking to bowl them over. He moves well laterally, goes well side to side. I could see him being on the outside. He's a tad. Well, right now he's only 211. He's 6'1", 211. I think he'll probably end up on the outside. But yeah, if you haven't seen his highlights, go watch them because they're fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean he flies around. I'm excited for him. And then the other commit, uh, running back Tiki Hayes from the WPIALLL area. That's the second running back currently committed from the region of Pittsburgh. Number 5 in Pennsylvania, and he's also a 4-star. Hayes, let's just say it this way. They already have Keandre Barker in this class as a running back in the 2025 class. Hayes was good enough for them to say yes to a second running back this early in the 2025 cycle. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, first off, Jaywan Sider continues to do Jaywan Sider things. And running backs want to come to Penn State. And that's been this case since Saquon Barkley was here. And we're still stacking classes with running backs. And that's happened in 2024, and it's going to continue to happen in 2025. Love this kid's speed. Seemed like in some games he was running at a different speed than everybody else. Like everybody's sprinting and he's just way ahead. I do like that he's from a tough conference in Western PA, so he's playing against good competition too, and still looks really fast. It feels like we haven't had a kid from Aliquippa commit in a long time. So it's definitely good to get into the Aliquippa High School. What Penn State legendary linebacker is from Aliquippa?
Paul Lesney.
Very good. Yep. He didn't go to Aliquippa High School, but because I went and double checked that before the pod because I knew he was from there, and I was like, oh, did he go to the same high school? He went to Hopewell, but yeah. So
Someone else. I mean, they've had a couple other people.
yeah,
from there
Aliquippa has been very kind to Penn State, and the best Penn State teams recruit that area at a high level, and that's what we do, and that's part of why Terry Smith's there as well, because he has those Pittsburgh connections. And he's also one of the best recruiters in the country. And if Terry Smith and Jaywan Sider on your are trying to get you, there's a good chance you're going to end up in Nittany Lion.
Yeah, I mean that's just a powerful duo. Is there anything else recruiting wise you really want to go over, Sean? I know there's at least one guy you want to mention.
So yeah, Jalen Harvey was at Penn State. Again, that saga continues. We thought maybe in June he'd commit. Well, we're almost in October. He still hasn't committed. I don't know where he's going, but he seemed to really enjoying himself. Audrey Snyder has a video out on Twitter. Franklin kind of had him in a bear hug, and he whispered something to him, probably something to the effect of, "Hey, come on down," because they wanted him to come to Penn State for a long time. From what I understand, from what 24/7 guys have said, it's probably us and USC right now, with Maryland probably being on the outside looking in. So I still think I don't know. I'm not predicting what happens with Jalen Harvey, but he did seem to enjoy himself at the whiteout. Bryce Underwood, the number one quarterback for the class of 2025, was also at the whiteout. Always good to get blue chips on campus. It's something that we've brought up a little bit in the summer. One of the couple negatives with recruiting was it didn't feel like we were getting a lot of blue chip guys even on campus. And I don't know if you saw this or not, Cory. This is a little bit of a side note. Gene Smith, the athletic director at Ohio State, he said that there are now guys asking to be paid to come on visits. Not just official visits where all your stuff's paid for, but unofficial visits, as part of NIL related things. And I mean, I think, and this is just me guessing, maybe that has to do with covering travel. And if that's the case, I'm actually okay with that. But like if a guy wants 10 grand to visit campus, I mean, we need some rules with this, man.
I mean, I don't understand how that actually would be allowed, because we know that they're only allowed to have so many official visits now. So the school can only literally have so many official visits. And so I would assume then you couldn't just, and an official visit means you're paying for everything. So
Right.
An unofficial visit, I don't feel like there would be a loophole where some NIL service could then pay for it, because then it's like everything's official. So I don't really understand how that's
Yeah.
possible.
I don't know either. That's just what the man said. I haven't heard of that directly, but it's just what Gene Smith said. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I'm always happy to see blue chip guys come to Happy Valley, especially to see something like that.
Right. No, that's interesting. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be naive and say it's not possible that that's happening. It's very,
Sure.
very, very much could be happening. But yeah, that's disappointing, because at least from that sense, you have some sort of way of limiting, but not really. So, um, no, I did not hear that. You ready to go to offense, defense?
Let's do it.
Cool. I want to just let me skim through. We have a lot of questions this week, so I just want to make sure we don't cover something that we might cover twice. So Shawn, I guess I just want to start off by asking you, are you okay with the Penn State offense right now? Because to me, there's two glaring things that stand out to me. Number one, Penn State is the only team right now that hasn't turned the football over. The only team in the FBS, knock on wood. Oregon had a fumble, I think, last week, so they are officially the only team now that doesn't have a turnover in the FBS, which is just awesome. The second thing that I think is really impressive, and we now know that it's not a fluke, this Penn State offense has the ability to be methodical, to take 5 yards, to take 6 yards, to take 4 yards, and drive the football. They had multiple drives of 10 plus plays, and that ended up in points. We saw that against Delaware. Part of me was like, okay, they did that against Delaware. That's nice, but can they do it against somebody else? And Iowa was the perfect litmus test for that, because Iowa will let you do that, and they will be patient because they believe that most college football offenses cannot be consistent. We'll turn the football over. We'll get greedy. We'll get impatient. And Penn State proved not so fast, my friend. We can be patient, and we will be patient. And Mike Gersich won't get bored calling plays. And they were successful in being methodical, especially in that second half. And to me, that's something James Franklin in his tenure at Penn State hasn't had. Maybe every once in a while with Noah Kane back in the day a little bit, but they were relying so heavily on the big play to get them out of things. And mostly because they didn't have an offensive line consistently blocking people where they could just run the ball for 4 yards a clip, or they could actually not have a big negative play on a 10-play drive that would completely take you out of schedule. They have the ability now to methodically score, and that's why I was so confident in my prediction last week. But they're going to be able to do this against most teams. They can run the rock, and if they do get behind behind schedule a little bit, they have the ability to throw on 3rd and 10 and pick it up, on a 3rd and 8 and pick it up. And most importantly, and the reason they're able to stay on schedule so well is that Drew Aller is able to throw the backside out route. He can be on the margin on the left side of the field. And when most defenses want to play off coverage on that corner, he can hit that for 5-7 yards every single time. And that gives him so many options as far as moving the sticks. I haven't seen a Penn State offense like this under James Franklin, and they are just consistent, and they're taking care of the football, and they're being methodical, and that to me is the biggest difference right now. And I guess, Sean, some people have already now switched over. I remember some fans used to complain about not being more methodical and running the ball and relying too much on the big play and too many lulls in their game. And now we're getting complaints that they're not throwing the ball for 20 plus yards or 30 plus yards, or the running backs aren't breaking big runs. And people are complaining about that now. And I guess my question again, are you okay with what you've seen from this offense so far?
Mostly, yeah. I mean, we've won every game by double-digit points. We haven't played, a cake schedule. We've played Iowa, we've played Illinois, we played West Virginia. West Virginia held Pitt to 6 points, and we scored 38. We should have had more if the kickers did their job, and we executed a little bit better in the red zone. So, yeah, I mean, I'm happy with it. I think it's just different than what people have become accustomed to. Like you pointed out, it's the first time under James Franklin we've ever had an offense like this. So it's just different and probably a little unexpected for a lot of fans. So I think there was an expectation going into this season that with Drew Aller, everything was just going to open up and we were going to be slinging it around, and Cliff couldn't throw the deep ball, which, by the way, was a narrative that I never bought into, that Cliff couldn't throw the deep ball. He could always throw the deep ball. That wasn't his problem. And I think people thought that Drew was really going to open things up, and maybe he will. Maybe he will. But that hasn't been the offense we've run. I mean, Drew Aller as a quarterback, I mean, he's more conservative than Ted Cruz. I mean, he takes care of the football. He plays within the system. And that's just who he's shown himself to be so far. So far. Are there games that we're going to need him to, that we're going to need him to take some shots downfield? Yeah, I think they're coming. But he just hasn't had to do it yet. And he's just been taking what the defense has given him. I said going into this game, if I were to prepare for Drew Aller, I would have done a lot of what Iowa did. And try to frustrate him. And he never got frustrated at all. And when it came time in the red zone to execute, make those big boy throws, he made them. Like, those were all dimes that he threw in the red zone. Those were all, like, people think when you have a big arm, they always think of like the Josh Allen rainbow passes down the field. No. That's not what the big arm. Yes, that's part of what they could do. Like, yeah, you could throw the ball 60 yards in the air. Guys, if you watched the NFL this week, how many times did you see the ball travel 60 times in the air in a game? And I'm talking about if you watch Mahomes, you watch Josh Allen. How many times? It doesn't happen all that much, because that's not really how the game's played. Where
Unless
you need the arms. Well, yeah, I mean, Tua is the MVP, and we scored 70 points. But outside of watching the Dolphins on Sunday, like, it just doesn't happen all that often. Where you need the big arm, red zone, trying to fit the ball into small windows. That's where the big arm comes in handy, and that's where you use it most of the time. And Drew showed, yeah, when the chips are down, I'm going to use this arm. and I'm going to fit it into those tight windows. And that's what he did all day Saturday. So to answer your question, yes, I'm mostly happy with the offense. I do want to see other receivers emerge, though, besides Keandre Lambert-Smith. And maybe with Harrison Wallace coming back, maybe that'll happen.
I think the point about the red zone is such an important point, because if they went down the field and then they just hand the football off and they score, okay, maybe you get more concerned. He's been precise in the red zone. He has shown the ability to drive the ball when he needs to for that Khalil Dinkins touchdown, and then he's shown the ability to have touch on the fade route, on a couple other passes earlier in the year. The one to KLS in the back of the end zone in West Virginia really sticks in my mind. He's really been fantastic in the red zone, decision wise, but also arm strength wise, with the bullet, with the touch pass, etc. So that to me is the difference. And we have seen him in that West Virginia game be able to drive the football when he has. Now, he does work through his progressions, and I think sometimes he does work through them a little bit quickly. The Illinois game, I think they did maybe miss a couple shots, but I told you guys that Iowa was not going to be the game where we throw the ball deep down the field. Just wasn't going to happen. And sure enough, that wasn't the case. Now, I have no idea what to expect from Northwestern and what we're going to see. I would be very shocked if we see anything different. I think Northwestern honestly would be okay with what Iowa did defensively, because that gives them a chance. What these teams do, and why you don't necessarily see so many deep shots down the field, is they're playing too high safety, and they are just saying, we're going to live for another day, and hopefully you make a mistake. And that's mostly because they don't have enough talent. So honestly, you might not see Penn State take a lot of deep shots. Now, play action pass might take a deep shot or something like that if you think you're in a good spot. But you might see more of those kind of things against teams that are willing to pressure Drew Aller and also challenge the wide receivers. We saw West Virginia try to do that a little bit. We saw Illinois do it, although Illinois was able to do it at times without even having to blitz them because Newton was so good. We're definitely going to see that with Michigan and Ohio State. So the freaking out about not throwing the ball deep, I think I would understand if it was a concern if they weren't having success, and we haven't seen the arm strength from Drew Aller, but we have seen those things. I agree with you. If you can transition over to wide receiver, that's fine. Trey Wallace still banged up. We told everyone that he practiced. He just rep wise, snap count wise, he didn't play very much compared to Dante Cephas, who got the start. Omari Evans, I think, is still banged up as well. He dropped the pass late in the game. So I think they really missed Trey Wallace, to be honest with you. Like, Dante Cephas had some good moments, but Trey Wallace is clearly the number 2, and no number 3 has stepped in that void and really solidified it. So I think his place is still safe right now. What we did see, though, is they used the tight ends a bunch. They ran that RPO tight end like in the fade, or in the, excuse me, not the fade, RPO and tight end in the flat like 17 times. I think they ran that play. They ran it to Dante Cephas one time too. But the tight ends were heavily involved. And they also got the ball to Keandre Lambert-Smith a lot more too. I think I want to say he had 8 targets with 6 catches. So they got him the ball a bunch as well. I think that's honestly, Sean, going to be the game plan. Like, run the ball, then use your tight ends and use Keandre Lambert-Smith until a wide receiver shows up. And Malik McLean, by the way, didn't even get in the stat sheet. So that's something to keep in mind as well. He had a rough game 2 weeks ago. But yeah, I agree with you, Sean. Receivers aren't quite there yet. Thankfully, you got Northwestern, UMass, and a bye week. And you'd hope Omari Evans, Trey Wallace are healthy, but also these other guys have maybe improved as well.
Yeah, and I think through the first 2 weeks, I was saying I was fine with where the receivers were. And why was that? Well, we had Harrison Wallace, so we had a legitimate number 2 guy. And if your number 3 guy is a combination of different guys, but they could all do different things, like Liam Clifford had a decent game, Dante Cephas, he's still getting used to the offense, I think. He had a miscommunication with Drew. And I don't know who to put that on, but it looked to me like he didn't run the route correctly, but I don't know. I'm not in the huddle, so I don't know. Omari Evans, like you said, he's still banged up. I really liked what I saw from him in the spring. And yeah, Malik McClain, he did not play very much. And I was a little surprised he barely got in, especially with Harrison Wallace being very limited. But yeah, I think I would feel a lot more comfortable if we had Harrison Wallace healthy. And like you pointed out, this is the time of the season that we were really looking forward to, because you could sit some guys, you could work guys back in, you could, like somebody like Dante Cephas, a good time for him to really get his sea legs under him in Big Ten play. Big Ten play this week, and then you play UMass leading up to that Ohio State game. So this is the time that you want to see some guys make some jumps, and also rest some guys that have some bumps and bruises, as is James Franklin's favorite phrase as of late.
Yeah, and just real quick on the tight ends. I mean, pulled that bold prediction right out of my butt. I mean, Penn State hitting on that, not one, not two, but 3 touchdown passes to the tight ends.
Yeah.
Just made me look like a genius.
Oh, genius right here. Yeah. It was the best game for the tight end of the season. I mean, they were heavily, for everybody asking where the tight ends, they were heavily involved in the passing game. And it was kind of a game that really set up nicely for them. You knew they were going to be playing the safeties back, which they did, and that could soften some things up over the middle for the tight ends, and it did. And they were all very, very good, including Khalil Dinkins getting a touchdown, and that was a huge play in the game. It's 4th down and 1, and I think everybody in the stadium's thinking we're going to run the ball. Mike Yursich, I mean, calls that pass play, and the ball goes to your 3rd tight end. And I think it shows the confidence they have in that tight end room as a whole, in that we're going to trust Khalil Dinkins to make this play that feels like a pivotal play in the game, even at the time. And we were off to the races after that. So we leaned heavily on the tight ends, and they delivered. Tyler Warren only had 2 catches, but they were both for touchdowns. I mean, he's become a big, big weapon in the red zone. I believe he has the most receiving touchdowns on the team right now. So, I mean, he's been all over the place, and this was Theo Johnson's best game receiving. So, kudos to my co-host and our founder, Cory Lestochi. And also, kudos to me, because I did say this is going to be Drew Allar's coming out game.
Yeah, he had 4 touchdowns.
What's that?
Said, yeah, he had 4 touchdowns passing.
Yeah, he didn't have the passing yards I thought he was going to have, but I also didn't. The weather didn't look as bad on Wednesday as it ended up being. So, I'm happy.
Tyler Warren is leading the team. He has 4 receiving touchdowns. Keandre Lambert-Smith has 3. If you were curious there. The tight ends had 35% of the receptions on Saturday. Khalil Dinkins, that catch was a really nice catch. Like, you were talking about the arm strength of Aller. Like, that guy wasn't. I mean, it was good coverage. Like, not a lot of QBs would throw that ball right where it needed to be. Like, that throw had to be pretty much perfect, and it was a laser. The defender really wasn't that far away from Khalil Dinkins, and he put it on the freaking money. So, and just having the guts to throw that on 4th and 1, because he wasn't that open. Maybe you try to scramble out, find a way to pick up a yard. There was conviction in that throw. I mean, that's the best way to put it.
All of the throws were challenging. All of his touchdown throws. I mean, the one to Warren was across.
Wait.
Yep.
Well, you can talk about the fade route, but we're going to talk film room with the 3 other touchdowns.
Okay, fade route. Yeah, I mean, the longtime listeners know I hate the fade play. But Drew has shown an ability to throw that ball with precision, and that's what it requires. And that's part of why I really don't like it, is everything's got to be so perfect. And on that play, him and Keandre Lambert-Smith both were perfect. And it was not an easy catch, and Keandre was able to go up and get it, and Drew put it right where he needed to. So when you have a quarterback capable of making that throw, and you have a receiver that you trust enough to go up and get it, okay, that's fine. I mean, I still don't think it's a. I still, I'm, I don't love the play, but when it works, it works. And if you have the guys to do it, fine by me.
Random thought here. I'm just looking at the team statistics. Penn State has 959 yards passing so far this year as a team, or receiving, whatever you want to call it. Only Keandre Lambert-Smith has more than 100 yards. Can you believe that?
No.
Now, Harrison Trey Wallace is at 98. Ty Warren's at 90. Theo Johnson's at 88. Nick Singleton's at 72. Liam Clifford's at 77. And Dante Cephas is at 82. So you got a bunch of guys right on the precipice of 100 yards. But isn't that kind of insane that they have almost 1,000 yards receiving and only one guy is over 100 yards?
Well, it says a lot about Drew, too, that he's not zeroing in on one guy or two guys, because sometimes you have a team where nobody else is touching the ball except one or two guys, and that hasn't really been the case. And even though we have a clear-cut number one receiver, I mean, I think Keandre Lambert-Smith's a cut above everybody else we got. Like you said, we have two running backs among the leaders on the team in receiving. We have a tight end up there. So everybody's getting in touch with Drew. And sometimes with a young quarterback, sometimes they tend to zero in on a guy. Like I remember Cliff used to zero in a little bit on KJ, and Hack, when he first started, would zero in on Allen Robinson. Now, Allen Robinson is still playing football, so I understand that one. And Sean Clifford had chemistry from high school with KJ Hamler. But that hasn't been the case with Drew Aller. He's gotten everybody involved, and it's just him playing wise beyond his years. So just couldn't be happier with the way he's playing right now, to be completely honest with you.
Also, we talked about, will Penn State have a number one wide receiver? I mean, that just goes to show, like, they are spreading the ball around, but KLS is the guy in the receiving core. Yeah. So, like, that's a question that has been answered as we leave September and head into October. So, something that everybody is really talking about, but kudos to Keandre Lambert-Smith for that as well. Let's talk offensive line before we head over to let's go offensive line, then we'll go film room, then we'll come back to defense. I think that was some good transition last time. Offensive line didn't allow a sack, Sean. Can't believe, imagine if we go back to the beginning of 2022 or definitely in 2021, it would have, if we waited 57 minutes to say that the offensive line didn't allow a sack, I think would have been insane. That would have been like probably the first thing we said 5 minutes into the show. Played well on Saturday.
I feel like having a good offensive line, it's kind of like having good health insurance. When you have good health insurance, you don't go around saying, yo, man, I got great health insurance. Like, you don't tell your friends, like...
I brag about my health insurance.
Well, Cory's the exception to the rule.
I've got fantastic health insurance.
Yeah, like, it's not like the first thing... Now, maybe Cory would. It's not the first thing you say to someone at a bar, like, my health insurance is awesome. And
it usually comes up within the second drink.
Or what about your car insurance?
No, that's a better one for me.
Okay. So you don't say, God, my car insurance is great. Now, if you have an accident and your car insurance sucks, you're going to be it's going to be the first thing you talk about with every single person you know. And when we have bad offensive lines, it's all you hear is about the offensive line. It's every single time. Like, I'm kind of happy we didn't have a podcast pre-2022 where it felt like the offensive line was, just really bad to mediocre for like 10 years. And, and now that we have one, and I think we have one that's playing at a near elite level. I mean, when you only give up a sack or two during your first 4 games, yeah, they're playing, especially in pass protection, at an elite level. Yeah, nobody talks about them anymore. And then they get really bored of the offensive line because they're like, oh, yeah, the offensive line, yeah, that's nice. But no, it's not just that, guys. Like, the offensive line, when you don't give up a sack against a good defense in Iowa, yeah, that's a lot of reason to celebrate. And, like I said, the theme of today is appreciate what you have and be grateful for what you have. Be grateful you have Olufashinu. This guy is awesome in pass protection. I mean, there's a reason why he's probably going to be a top 10 pick in this year's draft. And he is an elite pass protector. Caden Wallace has come a long way. He's playing really, really good football right now for Penn State. And he's a guy that I've criticized in the past on here, and he's really put it together. And I don't think he's had a bad game yet. And
no, I'm very happy with Kane Wallace.
Yeah, the guards had a couple times on Saturday where they didn't hold up in run blocking as well as I would have liked. But overall, like I said, in pass protection, they've been fine. And Hunter Norzad, I think, has been better at a center than he was at guard. So
yeah, I think honestly, Hunter Norzad has been the one guy that's impressed me the most, because I was going into the summer, I was very worried because we love Juice Scruggs so much, and just how important he was as far as being the cornerstone to that offensive lineman. There's so many injuries around him, but Hunter Norzad's been fantastic. So big credit there. I'll have the film breakdown out tomorrow, but yeah, I agree. Like Sal Wormley struggled at times. JB Nelson, I feel like is really good sometimes, and then sometimes he's eh. And then Vega Ione, same thing. Like both Ione and JB Nelson are so physical and are so physical. But yeah, the guards are playing good. I wouldn't say they're playing great, but again, you get that performance out of them against an Iowa defense that's well coached. Maybe doesn't have a Van Ness out there or Espinoza out there. They still got a good solid, like better depth than the Illinois defensive line. Didn't have a Newton out there, but a better overall depth, and they held their own. And not just held their own, they dominated at times. So yeah, I'm happy there.
And late in the game, they took the game over. I mean, they were on the field the whole second half, so pretty much anybody would get taken over at that point. But I mean, they were leaning on Iowa, where they were cooked. And I mean, and I'm somebody who doesn't, I don't think time of possession is as critical, especially in today's day and age, as it used to be. But when you control the ball for 45 minutes, yeah, you're going to win you're not going to lose many games that way. And that's what Penn State did on Saturday. And it's also a credit to this offensive line that they were able to keep drives going. I think on that first touchdown drive, we converted early in the game. We weren't doing well on third down, but we converted 3 fourth downs. The one quarterback sneak, and Cory probably couldn't tell live. It was very, very close. We got a generous spot, but it was good enough. It was good enough. And yeah, that was kind of the story of the whole game, was the offensive line did enough to get by. Now, I know people will say, we still haven't had an explosive run from Nick Singleton or Kaytron Allen. And that's another thing that I think is coming. But we didn't have it on Saturday. And I know we'll be getting into running backs, but I'm not really going to put that on the offensive line necessarily. There's a lot that goes into long runs.
Yeah, honestly, I don't have much to say about the running backs. Kaytron Allen continues to do what he does. I thought that was a perfect Kaytron Allen game. I think Nick Allen, Nick Singleton is still pressing a little bit, but again, you see when he just is allowed to go, what he can do, and he just needs to kind of get back to that. So again, I'm not worried about Nick Singleton. Remember what he did in the second half of the year last year. I think it will come, and I just think it's going to be, once one happens, the floodgates are going to open up again. So he just needs to have that one long run to stretch his legs and be like, okay, yeah, this is how I do it again. And he's been so close. I mean, even that 119-yard run he did a fantastic job. And so like he's getting there, and I'm not worried about it. But you can just see his speed. But Kaytron Allen, just great vision as always.
There was one run too in particular It was I think it was on second or third down. He just showed such Katron just showed such patience, just waiting for a hole to open up. And that's the vision. That's also like I think an underrated part of his game is his wiggle, is his, now he's not the fastest guy in the world. If there's one criticism, he doesn't have a ton of burst, but he's very shifty and he's good at wiggling his way through the hole. And when you combine that with power, I mean, you get a really good running back, and he's not slow by any means. And yeah, Singleton, I think it's a good way to put it, Corey, that he's pressing a tad. And it's not that he's playing badly. I don't think that, but I think he's just got to get back to just not thinking and just running the ball. And I think if he gets back to that, he's going to be fine. Like Nick Singleton's a very, very good college football player, and he's going to be playing football for a long time. But he's just kind of going to get back to his roots a tad.
Yeah, Fish Finder on YouTube says that the wide receivers need to block for Nick Singleton better.
Yeah.
I agree, and I think maybe they actually didn't have a great day as far as that. But I'm not putting this all on the wide receivers blocking well either. Like they've had moments where they block well. I thought Keandre Lambert-Smith, I feel like Keandre Lambert-Smith either blocks really well or doesn't necessarily have a great block. And there are times where that does spring a longer run. But also there's just holes that Nick Singleton's just missing sometimes. So we'll spread that or criticism around to numerous people there. Let's look at the film here. I wanted to show this play. Let me start this over real quick. So I wanted to show this play first because this is in the first quarter. And right here, Sean, to me, this was like the moment where I was like, oh, wow, like we're going to probably win this football game. Because if you can do this to the Iowa defense on a quarterback sneak for people that are listening on the podcast, it's a 4th and 1 from the 48-yard line, and it's a true 1 yard. And Penn State pushes Drew Aller roughly an extra 6 or 7 yards to the Iowa 46-yard line or so. Kind of like the Philadelphia Eagles QB sneak there, Ty Warren behind him and just pushed him along. But that kind of set the tone for the entire game. So just wanted to show this play off the bat because the offensive line, if you just watch it from the snap, just they get off the ball, they fire out, and they hit somebody. And to me, that just set the tone for the entire game.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you have everybody. I mean, first off, that's a lot of weight. That's a lot of manpower coming at you. You have Hunter Norzad leading the way. You have Drew Aller, who's taller than Hunter Norzad, and then you have Ty Warren right behind him. I mean, that's almost impossible to stop. And yeah, like you said, that's a tone setter because all you hear about with Iowa is, oh, how are we going to match up front? Well, that's how we matched up front.
Yeah.
Right there.
Lionheart said something about if it's been drilled too much into Nick Singleton's head to not bounce it outside. I think maybe to a certain degree. I just think he's thinking a little bit too much. So Lionheart also asked, is this a way to get your quarterback hurt? I don't think in this situation, Drew Aller's a pretty big dude.
Yeah.
I mean, he can get hurt doing anything. Now, are there times that maybe you question, like they ran the QB sneak at like the 3 or 4 yard line, and he took a pretty good pop that. Didn't really agree with that play call. But as far as this one goes, no, I wasn't too worried about this one. Having the ability, showcasing that Drew Aller can run. They ran the read option one time. They ran the same quarterback draw that Sean Clifford was really good at running in the red zone. And Aller actually made a guy miss but didn't score. Showing those on film just makes those linebackers think twice before they drop in a zone, which I think is an important thing for those linebackers to have in the back of their mind.
Yeah, I mean, this particular play, I mean, there are arguments for it to be banned because it could potentially be dangerous. But when you have a guy as big as Drew, he's probably going to be all right. Wouldn't run it with Tua Tagovailoa, though. And
No.
here's one of the plays we were talking about.
Yeah, so this is the first touchdown. They go from that full house set, they shift down to two wings. Now they're going to run the same play action kind of motion to the left to right side here. They've already ran this quite a bit to this point, but they did this often where they were trying to get that motion to the right side here with Theo Johnson. And then watch, first of all, great pass protection. Nick Singleton could do a little bit better job there on the pass protection on the right side, but the offensive line does a solid job here. Does enough to give Drew Aller time to go through his progressions. But again, I want to pause it before I want to pause it right before the ball's thrown, just so you can see that Khalil Dinkins doesn't have great separation here. Like, this isn't just a cakewalk throw. This ball is put on an absolute line. I mean, even right now, it's not even that much separation, but he puts it on the money. Doesn't even give the defender a chance. We'll watch it one more time here. But I loved how he went through his progressions. I love that okay, not open, and then committed to it, threw it with conviction. Khalil Dinkins had a fantastic catch on the other side. Just what a play on a 4th and 1.
Yeah, that's power and accuracy right there. A lot of guys could throw with power, but to be able to put it where he did, great ball placement, great catch by Khalil Dinkins, because yeah, he was well covered, and not, in those conditions, not an easy play to make, especially when you're especially when you're third string tight end. And I do think Khalil Dinkins to be starting at a lot of programs in the Big Ten, but yeah, chef's kiss.
All right. So this play, I love this play. This has become a really popular play in college football, especially, but even in the NFL, the little kind of sneak the tight end over, throwback pass, all the motions going to the right side of the field. I'm actually kind of surprised this play worked on Iowa because usually they're so disciplined, but they're so worried about these tight ends that, again, all that motion going to the right side of the field. We saw that a lot where they were trying to just show all the motion. And again, because Iowa always plays zone, everyone's eyes are in the back. So when Drew Aller rolls right, everyone naturally goes to him and that side of the field, and Warren just sneaks out. But I want to just emphasize here that Drew Aller has to sell this because it's very easy to throw this too soon and get too excited, and he sells it beautifully. And you see Ty Warren, his defender, run right by him. Katron Allen gets a really solid block. Khalil Dinkins gets a solid block. Olu, his block was really good too. Not that it probably matters on the left side as much, but again, just so simple and so beautiful. I love this play, and it was just drawn up perfectly, and it was even executed even better.
Yeah, number 10, you could tell he thinks Warren's staying in the block, so then he cheats out a little bit, and then Warren just sneaks across the end zone. Again, like Cory said, beautiful design, and good design makes good execution. It's going to result in something very pretty. That's what happens on this play.
All right, let's look at, let me see here. Oops, I think this is the same one. Yes, it is. Let me find Warren's second touchdown here. Here we go. All right. So this touchdown to Ty Warren, I think is a really impressive play by Drew Aller, but I actually think he could improve from this play. So you're going to have little trips here. And I mean, they're running zone. They're basically running quarters here and playing pretty much ass coverage all the way. They only rush 4. And Drew Aller is going to put this in the window. But what I want you to notice about this, again, good play, great play, all that. But what concerns me here is he's actually open a little bit longer. Drew Aller actually waits for him to get open, and you'll see it here a little bit more. I'll actually pause it. So he hasn't even thrown the ball yet, and Warren's already out of his break. So in a perfect world, this ball is already on its way. Now he waits until he gets open, which isn't the end of the world for Drew Aller because he can throw an absolute laser beam. But if Sean Clifford probably throws this ball, it's probably intercepted by the other defender that's currently over on Amari Evans. Because watch how, and I think that's actually Cooper DeJean over there, the corner. And so it's a laser throw, and he actually does a good job of not leading Warren into the corner. So I'll give him credit for all of that. But theoretically, if you want to nitpick, you actually wish that he's throwing the ball right now, because you know where he's going to go. You see the corners tied up with Amari Evans. He could already have this ball out. Even right now, it could already be out. And again, it's a perfect location. Goes up, gives only a place where his big, strong tight end can go get it. The ball location is absolutely perfect. But again, if you want to be a little nitpicky here, you actually would like to see that ball get out a little bit sooner. But again, really solid ball placement with absolute strong velocity. And the pass blocking, again, I know they only rushed 4, but Wallace handled his man. Olu handled his man. Simple pitch and catch, no pressure whatsoever. We'll watch it one more time here from the other perspective. But again, he doesn't lead Warren into any trouble, but he could have probably just made it a little bit easier if the ball comes out sooner. But I'm not gonna sit here and complain too much, but just something maybe you'd like to see him throw with a little bit more anticipation.
Yeah, and if there's one thing with Drew this season that I've noticed is he still has to throw with a little bit more anticipation. And yeah, right there, that's a very good example. But again, when you have an arm like his, he can make up for that very easily, especially when he has the ball placement, because that's a whole other skill. I mean, you could throw the ball a mile, and if your ball placement isn't any good, well, then who cares? See Will Levis. Like, you have to be able to throw the ball with some touch. You have to know where to put the ball. You have to know not to throw a medicine ball. So, yeah, if he could just improve on one thing, it would be throwing with a little bit more anticipation. But like Cory said, we're not gonna harp on that too all that much, because he's been pretty lights out this season.
I've been very impressed with his accuracy. Like, I was a little bit worried at times going into this year that the ball was coming out high. That throw was perfect. The Khalil Dinkins throw was perfect. We've seen him throw a touch too, but the accuracy, even the Keandre Lambert touchdown, the long one in the West Virginia game, was a dot. The throw to Liam Clifford, dot. A lot of throws over the middle of the field to the tight ends, a dot. Even on the out routes and the bubble screens, the ball placement is exactly where it needs to be. It keeps the receiver running in the proper direction. So, very, very impressed there. So I don't want people to get in the wrong impression here that we're nitpicking. Don't think Drew Aller is very good, but you just want to see him throw with a little bit more anticipation. Sean, I don't want to talk any more offense. I think it's a crime that we haven't spoken to the defense yet. I know we did a little bit, but probably should have broken the defense down first, because they were the talk
How'd
of
they
not
play?
just yeah, they weren't the talk of the town, they were talking of the country. Shutting out Iowa 31-0. Again, Penn State ran 97 plays on offense. Huge time of possession, as Sean mentioned. Iowa had less yards than Penn State had plays. And so that means that the Iowa defense was on the field a bunch. And that means, if you can do the quick math here, it means Penn State's defense wasn't on the field very much. And they were fresh the entire game. And it showed in the fourth quarter, because they were absolutely getting after the quarterback. I think they only ended up being on the field for 33 plays. And I think Abdul Carter played the most snaps with 28, which is just insane. Like, they are going to go into Northwestern very extremely healthy and also fresh. And if you tell me after playing Illinois and Iowa that this defense is going to be fresh after playing what we think to be two grueling teams, that's very impressive. That they are going into Evanston, you could make the argument that they could have been going into this kind of tired and played a lot of football and been on the field a bunch. And that is the complete opposite.
Oh no, they're going to be very well rested. I mean, they just got Iowa off the field quick almost every single drive, and so many 3-and-outs. I think Iowa got 2 first downs the whole game. Like, that's absurd. I mean, how do you can't compete that way? And and like you said, I think a lot nationally has been made of Brian Ferentz and, kind of just considering, well, this is Iowa. So, of course, Penn State's going to shut them down. And we talked about this earlier in the show. But that level of dominance, it's not like everybody plays like that against Iowa. Yeah, I mean, usually not too many teams that aren't directional Michigan schools are getting exposed by Iowa. But yeah, I mean, I'm almost at a loss for words. They were so dominant. The speed that they played with and the physicality, because that's another thing that we all heard. Oh, these, and it's a common criticism of James Franklin is, oh, his teams aren't physical. Well, yeah, they are. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where this comes from, but yeah, they're definitely physical enough. So I'm not going to go full Ryan Day yelling about 90-year-old Lou Holtz or anything about us being tough. But this is a tough football team. Like, we're not like these softies that can't handle the Midwest. I don't really know where this narrative comes from.
Yeah, right now Penn State 26th in rushing at yards per carry allowed. They are shocking and surprisingly number 1 in total defense in the country. They are currently, where are they? They are currently 19th in the country in sacks, which, updating my season bowl prediction of 50 sacks, they're only at 13 a quarter way through the year. So a little bit behind schedule there. Going to need some like 5 or 6 sack games. Be helpful if they would work out this weekend with Northwestern. Tackles for a loss, they are currently at, where are they? Actually, I didn't look up this one. They're currently at 25 TFLs for the year. So doing okay there. And then the final thing I wanted to show, turnovers. They have the number 1 turnover margin at 11. And, well, if you do the math, Sean, if you haven't turned the ball over and you have taken away the ball 11 times, that puts you at 11 total takeaways. That is second best only behind Liberty. So they've taken the ball away. What's surprising to me, Sean, is that they have, to this point, 6 fumbles and 5 interceptions. I mean, that's a lot of fumbles. Usually that you don't get that many fumbles, but they've been able to do the job. They've been very opportunistic, and they got a bunch against Illinois. But I was very, very surprised that they were able to force 4 turnovers against a Kirk Ferentz Iowa team.
Yeah, I was too. I thought Iowa. Typically Iowa doesn't beat themselves, and yeah, we force those turnovers and everything, but when you turn the ball over, I mean, that is in a way beating yourself. And but yeah, I mean, we still had to make that happen. I the Cade McNamara debate, Cade McNamara was awful, and a lot of it was our making, and we made him play terribly. And it also doesn't help that he's just not very good. So yeah, I mean, from Rich Scarcella too, who we retweeted a couple days ago, we're number 1 too in passing defense. We're giving up 138 yards per game. So I mean, the secondary is as good as advertised. And on Saturday night, it really didn't feel like they had to do all that much because we were so dominant up front. Yeah, I mean, they were fine when they had to do something, but what do they have to do? I think a wide receiver for Iowa. Let me make sure about this. Yeah, they only had 2 catches. Their wide receivers. Nico Reganey had 1, and then Deontay Vines had 1. And that was it. That was it for the receivers. And then Eric Ball had the other 3 catches. So they only had 6 receptions the whole night. And a
Which is
lot of it
crazy.
was they couldn't get the ball off, because we were in Cade McNamara's space, or we were sacking Cade McNamara, or Cade McNamara was throwing incompletions. So, I mean, you can't play better defense than we played on Saturday. I think it's impossible.
I don't know why Iowa kept trying to go to that like middle screen. I think they were trying to run it like
Yeah.
3 different times, and it didn't work at all because it was like third down usually every time. Penn State rolled out the new defensive line tweak, if you will, where they left Denai Dennis Sutton, Chop Robinson, and Disa Isaac all in the field at once, and they put Chop Robinson. I thought maybe Denai Dennis Sutton would move inside, but they brought Chop Robinson inside, and he was bullying offensive guards all night from that spot, including on those screenplays. And so on those screenplays, the one guy that's actually supposed to continue to block couldn't block Chop Robinson, and so the screen didn't even have a chance to develop because Robinson was in the backfield as if nobody was supposed to block him, but they were actually still trying to block him and they couldn't do it. So it's like one thing if you get to the quarterback on a screenplay, but you weren't blocked and they're throwing behind you. But if you're the one guy they're actually trying to block to make sure the other guys get down there and you can't block, that's gonna be trouble. And like that happened multiple times. So expect that formation more, but just complete dominance. Like that was Chop Robinson's best game, and it wasn't even close. It's like Iowa had that they were gonna see if they could get away with not holding Chop Robinson, and it failed miserably. Let me read. I don't know if I'll be able to get all of his stats here, but he ends up with just 1 sack and the forced fumble, but he was pretty much there the entire day. Like I don't know how many hurries he had, but it probably had to be at least 5.
I think Chop Robinson is one of those guys you have to watch the game to fully appreciate him. Like if you just go by the stat line and you don't watch the game, then you don't get the full Chop Robinson effect. He is disruptive constantly. And that's what you want from an end. Like sacks are great. I mean, it's great finishing at the quarterback, but it doesn't tell you all you need to know about being a great pass rusher. And Chop Robinson is a great pass rusher. Like he is so good at getting after the quarterback. He's good against the run too. Like he is no slouch at all against the run. I think that kind of gets lost a little bit when people talk about Chop Robinson. But he made himself a lot of money on Saturday because when NFL scouts watch a guy go against Iowa, and they respect the part of Iowa they respect on offense is their offensive line. And I know this isn't a great Iowa offensive line, but I mean he manhandled them on Saturday night, and I think he got a lot of scouts very curious about him. So,
and also they only ran 33 plays, so you can't necessarily have a huge stat line when they only ran 33 plays.
Quality over quantity, man.
Adisa Isaac, another fantastic game as well.
He's been good every game.
I saw the Iowa fans are complaining about like a face mask. I'm like, well, he wouldn't have had to have a face mask if he wasn't being held by. He got tackled by the offensive tackle on that play. I'm like, the only reason he's only using one hand to claw at the quarterback is because the other guy's holding with the other one. Like, if you just let him go, he doesn't face mask your quarterback. So.
I mean, the refs mostly let them play on Saturday, I felt like. Cooper DeJean got called for personal foul because he ripped Keandre Lambert-Smith's helmet off. KLS also got called for a face mask, which...
Was that a good call? Because I know he stiff-armed the face mask, but did he actually grab it?
He grabbed it, yeah. When you're doing a stiff arm, they give you some latitude, but he did hold it longer than he should have. He should have let go. So...
Okay.
It was by the book a good call in my mind.
Okay. All right.
The roughing they should have called roughing the punter on that one play though. That was nonsense.
Some people are like, "Oh yeah, he definitely was pushed into it." I'm like, I watched that thing over, and they showed that play in Beaver Stadium. I'm not kidding you, 25 times.
That's what they always do. Anytime there's a close call that goes against Penn State, they show that play to death.
Especially when it's like hitting somebody that doesn't ever get hit.
Yeah.
Like I remember when one time Joey Julius got sucker hit
against
I think
Minnesota, right?
Was it Minnesota? Yeah. And
Yeah.
they showed that over and over, and people were just boiling the more they showed it.
The stadium was up in arms like I've never seen it before when Joey Julius got that cheap shot. The players, they were going after the Minnesota players too that time.
Yeah, no, that was yeah, I know, I'm right there with you.
It really rallied us.
And that was like that for that punt too, because from everything we saw, it looked pretty clear that he wasn't pushed into him. I mean, he might have been touched, but he was not shoved into him.
Exactly. There's a difference. Yeah, he was blocked because Theo Johnson didn't want to give up a blocked punt, but he didn't get shoved into him.
Yeah.
No.
Linebackers, I mean, again, not much to say because not much went on, but Curtis Jacobs played a good game.
He was fantastic.
Again, only 3 total tackles, including a TFL, but I mean, he led the team with tackles with 3 because, well, Iowa didn't score, so every time they had the football in their hands, they were tackled. So theoretically, there's only 33 tackles to be given out. It looks like the team was total just 24, which is kind of an interesting thing. I guess you have incompletions, right? Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. I wonder if that adds up properly. 16 pass attempts, 10 of them were drops. So there you go. There's 34 plays right there. Yep. 24 tackles, 10 incompletions. There you go.
There you go. Curtis Jacobs also had 2 fumble recoveries. I think he's the first Penn Stater since the early 90s to do that.
91,
so,
yeah.
91. So
forget who the player was, but it was against Temple.
Yeah, so I mean, making some history too.
Can you believe that? Like, I feel like that should have happened more recently, though.
Yeah.
It's a weird stat.
I would have thought that Army game in 2015, where it felt like every other play was a fumble.
Northwestern even last year.
Yeah, that was another one. I mean, but apparently not. So anytime you do something that hasn't been done in 32 years, I mean, that's pretty damn cool. So I thought Curtis Jacobs was fantastic on Saturday.
Yeah, that was bizarre for sure. And I just want to give a shout out to Vanover. He swatted the living crap out of that ball, and he got a sack for it technically too. But showing his length, I also didn't know he changed numbers, so I did not know who it was when he made. I was like, 15. Who is 15? I had no idea.
Yeah.
So that was nice to see him back in action. And you know what? He was up at like 3 a.m. He retweeted our tweet at like 3 a.m. or something like that.
Sounds like he was enjoying the night.
Yeah, I think he was. I think he was just seeing like what was up on Twitter because I literally it might have been a little bit earlier than 3, but not by that much. Might have been 2. And he retweeted it right away. So shout out to him. It was nice to see him back. The safeties, I went out on a limb a little bit and said I thought KJ Winston and Jalen Reed were the best safeties right now. They played the most they played more than Keaton Ellis and Zakee Wheatley. So say that for what you will. I think KJ Winston he covers really well. He has the size and the speed to cover. And Jalen Reed had some nice plays as well. But corners, I don't even have anything to say about the corners. Like, they did well, but they weren't really challenged. And I mean, I don't even know if I have. Looks like Kalen King had a tackle. Johnny Dixon also had a tackle. Daquan Hardy had a tackle. But yeah, that's all. I mean,
I live tweeted the whole game. I don't think I talked about any cornerbacks at all. And it's just because nothing happened. And sometimes that's the best kind of game when your cornerbacks don't have to do anything. I want to mention KJ Winston too. He's the next guy. He's the next great safety at Penn State because Cory talked a little bit about how well-rounded he is. And I knew he could hit coming into this year, but his improvement, him not even improvement because he barely played last year, but just showing that, yeah, I'm really good against the pass too. I mean, it's been a nice revelation for us, and to contrast him being the young guy with Jalen Reed, the more experienced guy. I mean, they've brought a lot of stability to that defensive backfield, and where of course, you never replace a Tate Brown, but I feel really, really, really good about that safety group.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Rude did not talk about the defense as much as the offense, but it was just such a dominating performance from start to finish.
Yeah,
And
we barely saw them.
that's true, right? We had 97 plays to discuss of the offense. We only had 33, 34 from the defense. Um, just again, I want to reiterate that they stopped the running game because I don't think that's discussed enough. Shout out to Tyler Elson too, because although I guess they called him offsides, I don't know if was it him that was offsides? I don't even know. But he had that play in the backfield, but they called it back for offsides.
I don't remember. It might have been. He made a play too, rushing Cade McNamara. He planted him on the ground once, and I know that was clean.
Dude, they hit McNamara and
Yeah, he had a
drove
big
him
hit
in the
on him.
ground a bunch. Like all of
Yeah,
them did.
yeah, he was very beat up.
I'm not gonna be able to remember the play, but Kobe King also had a really nice tackle at one point, and I don't remember where or when it happened, but I was like he flashed. And I was like, oh, nice, good tackle there. Um,
Yeah, I think it was
you'll
in the
see.
open field, right?
Yeah, I don't
Yep,
remember how often they were in the open field. It might have been the
not
one
much.
on that one counter where they had a little bit of room, but
Yeah,
um, they weren't fooled by anything. The only time was that in that scamper that you mentioned at the beginning of the show, and I wonder if they honestly were like sell out for the run. Like, let's see if Cade McNamara, from a health perspective, is even gonna try to run it first. Like, let's get burned one time on
yeah.
a play action boot. Okay, now Curtis Jacobs stay home from now on. But they wanted to see if they would even try anything. Like, let's see what his mobility is actually like. And that was about even that he looked like he was a little ginger as far as him running down the sideline there. And he was running gingerly.
I was gonna say he did run about as fast as me on that play, so he just had nobody around him, and I think I would have picked up the first down as well. But that was one of the only highlights from Iowa's offense. I think it was the longest. I think that might have been the longest play they've had, and it's back to back weeks. Was it Luke Altman? No, it was an HB draw. It was that they had a running back draw on third and long. But it's back to back weeks where the two longest two of the most explosive plays were just on broken plays that we didn't really see coming and really ended up being no real harm done. So I think it speaks a lot, and you touched on it a bit. This team was very prepared going into this game. Like this is a really well coached team, and that's another thing, kind of like the car insurance analogy, in the offensive line. Like when you have a well coached team, you just kind of chug along, and yeah, the team was prepared, and then you don't say anything about it the rest of the week. But when your team's not well prepared and it shows, and you have coordinators that obviously are a little bit in over their heads, oh, it's going to be all you talk about. Like if you listen to sports talk radio in Iowa today, it's just going to be dunking on Brian Ferentz for 3 hours.
That's
And
okay with me.
hey, that's good. And Kirk, keep him forever. I mean, forget about the 25 points a game thing. Just keep him. I think he's really close to figuring it out, honestly. But yeah, when you have a coordinator who's incompetent, you're just gonna you're just gonna dunk on him all day. But when you have guys that are tippy top of what they do, I mean, it almost becomes expected, and we shouldn't just take that for granted.
Eric All on the play where he fumbled it. Technically, he got 20 yards before he fumbled it. So that was the longest play from scrimmage. But then he fumbled it.
Right.
Well,
Right.
poetic justice for that too. That he was the one that had the touchdown. Um, when he was at Michigan against Penn State, and then he has the fumble that starts the dismantling of his football team. So that was nice too. Uh,
Absolutely.
Um, I mentioned the gazelle and the lion. That play was a shovel pass play, and so I'm going to take that as that was the gazelle in its final effort earlier than I thought it was going to be. I thought I'd at least make it to the second quarter, but that was pretty much the beginning of the end already. Um, I want to talk special teams at least briefly, Sean. Um, kicked a good field goal, missed a field goal. The the leaping penalty could have been called multiple times in that game. But I do want to say that the guy who leaped during the blocked field goal was not the guy who blocked the field goal. And so you do want to see that get cleaned up a little bit there. That was not the person who actually did the leaping, did not block the field goal. So that you could argue that that field goal potentially could have been still blocked. I think Falcon said afterwards that he didn't get all of it. He didn't get up on it enough. But you would like to see that get cleaned up. So that was a true mistake. Caden Saunders, we gave him a lot of praise. He struggled. Tory Taylor kicks all sorts of different types of balls. He kicks it rugby style, but he can kind of kick a knuckleball. He can kick kind of an end over end. He can do a lot of different things. He's one of the best punters in the country, probably because he gets so much damn practice. But he did some crazy things, and it was wet. But there's a couple of bad decisions. Nobody's talking about the muffed punt because he recovered it, but it could have been an issue if Saunders isn't able to get back on top of it. So got to clean those things up. Got to stop catching the ball inside the 5. But I think it was a learning. You know, if you're gonna have a game where you struggle, that was the game to do it, and hopefully he improves there. But otherwise, I think those are the two major things. Nowusu actually did really well in the rain. That was no issue as far as kicking off deep. Iowa, I don't think had any intention of returning him anyway. But those are the main things on special teams for me. Some high snaps too, but otherwise, that's about it.
Yeah, I think Thompson is a pretty good punter. Haven't really had too many complaints with him. I was a little worried about him coming into the year, but I think he's been pretty good. Falcons, I mean, this is 2 straight weeks with the block kick. And the one this past week didn't count. But as Cory pointed out, the guy who blocked it wasn't even leaping. So, I mean, you just don't want to see that, because not only on a block kick, not only do you get it blocked, and not only do you miss it, but we know how momentum could really change on a block kick, and fortunes could change for the better or for the worse on a block kick. So you definitely don't want to see that. He also just straight up missed a kick. He pushed it. If that was his only miss and he didn't have the block, I would say, well, it's 46-yard kick, pouring rain. There was wind. Okay, that's going to happen to a college kicker, but you definitely don't want to get those kicks blocked. So he's got to do a better job at just kicking the ball up. Caden Saunders definitely made a mistake on the muff. He just didn't get to it. And luckily, things were kind of bouncing our way on Saturday. The ball that went off the Iowa player bounced right to Curtis Jacobs. The Caden Saunders muff ended up being no big deal. He was able to just run over it. He lost 10 yards on it, but he was able to go get it. But the ball was bouncing our way that day. So you need a little bit of luck in this as well. But overall, definitely some things to improve on from a special teams perspective.
Absolutely. Which is good. You need some things to improve on from time to time too. Ready for some fan questions to wrap the show up?
Let's do it.
If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you've liked the video and subscribed. If you're listening on podcast form, please make sure you've subscribed wherever you're listening. Okay, lots of questions today. I asked for a lot, and we got a lot. How about Sexy Red being at the Penn State game? DKW, I can't figure out how and the why for the Sexy Red appearance, is what he asked.
I'm going to feel like a boomer. I had no idea who that was until Saturday.
No, me neither. But
no idea.
We're old now, Sean. But
this is true.
I think he was more curious from her point of view on why she was there. But
that I don't know. But
why not go to the whiteout game, be on the field? I would do it.
Kids seem to like it, so I was fine with it too.
This question's from Dorito Bandit. Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan have all looked good, very good defensively through 4 weeks. Which defense has impressed you the most? Is the Penn State defense better or about the same than what you would have expected?
Well, considering who we've played, I probably have to go with Penn State. I think Ohio State might have had the most impressive single performance. Sam Hartman, albeit he was playing against ice cream truck drivers and mail delivery men the first 3 weeks, he did look very impressive. And we know from Wake Forest, he is a good quarterback. And Ohio State, their defense won them that game. So you do have to give them credit there. But just week after week, I mean, Penn State has just come to play. And they look better this year than they did last year. And that's even now small sample size, but that's even without Jair Brown and Joey Porter Jr. And I think you're just seeing that comfort in that new scheme. Michigan's been good, but again, they've played absolutely nobody yet, so I don't know how good they are yet.
Yeah, it's tough to tell with Michigan right now for sure. I would say that they are better than this defense, Penn State's defense is better than I expected at this point. I think that point you hit on, Sean, is important. Second year in scheme, I think, has made a huge difference. They definitely seem more comfortable out there. They're playing more freely. Yeah. Thank you, Jarita, for the question. I was going to rub my eyeball here. There we go. Much better. This question's from Aaron. Will the big play be back for the Northwestern game? I say yes. What do you say, Sean?
Eventually, it's got to happen, and why not against the Wildcats of Northwestern? Northwestern, they are not fast. They're just a total lack of athleticism from Northwestern. I think we're gonna cause a lot of problems with our speed, and I think we're gonna break some plays. So, going into the Iowa game, Cory and I both said we're not expecting the big play to really necessarily be there, because Iowa, that's what they do. They take away the big play and they make you go methodically, which we were able to do. I don't think Northwestern could really do that even if they tried, because they just don't have the horses to do it. It was a nice win for them against Minnesota, but Minnesota ain't Penn State.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know. I think you'd maybe see a better chance of a long touchdown run than a touchdown pass against Northwestern. I just don't know how Northwestern's going to play. Maybe they're going to say, you know what? We just saw what Iowa did defensively, and Penn State still scored 31 points on them. So we can't just sit back, because they've shown the ability to run the football, and Drew Aller has shown the ability to take care of the football. So let's go after them. Maybe we can force into some mistakes that way, kind of like what West Virginia tried to do, and that will open the door for some more big plays down the field. So we'll just have to wait and see there. I'm not familiar as much with the new Northwestern head coach, where I feel great about it. I haven't watched a bunch of FCS film for where he came from, so I don't know much about Braun, but we'll have to wait and see. To be honest, to this point on Monday, I haven't looked at much Northwestern stuff yet, so forgive me, Aaron.
Do you feel bad that you can't reference the Edmund Fitzgeralds anymore?
A little bit, yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's go to this question from Einstein von Braun, Mischer. Probably could have left Aaron's question and his question for the Wednesday show, but that's okay. He says, with Northwestern already having 2 wins and not as bad as originally thought, is there any concern for this week's matchup in Evanston and the dreaded 11 a.m. kickoff? Sean, I'm going to take this one.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. I don't know if you heard that little belch.
You're good.
The premise that Northwestern is not as bad as originally thought because they have 2 wins, I think says more about how much worse Minnesota is than originally thought, rather than Northwestern maybe being good. Now, Northwestern scored some points at home. I'll give them that. And Duke is appearing to be a pretty solid team that they faced. But I'm not ready to really be concerned about this Northwestern football team. I don't really know where their weapons are going to come from. And Penn State's already done the 11 a.m. kick. So I think they've got some practice there. And I really think this defense, the the way they're playing defense translates no matter where. They bring their own energy, and so I am not concerned about this.
No, I'm good. I mean, we're in my mind right now, I think we're playing like one of the 5 best teams in the country. And if you're playing at that level, you don't lose to Northwestern. You don't have to be too worried about Northwestern. I mean,
Having the methodical approach on offense rather than having to just rely on the big play, rather than having to rely on splash plays, makes me less worried about playing on the road in general, but definitely on 11 a.m. kicks.
Our friend Mike made a good point the one time when we were texting. He said something along the lines of, when you have an offensive line that's good to really good, and you already have a good, a really, really talented team, you're not going to lose too many games to teams like Northwestern. You don't really have to worry all that much about getting upset when you could just lean on those big guys. And I think that's really why I just don't give a team like Northwestern all that much of a shot against us. I'm not saying they won't have some good moments. They might. But yeah, I'd be surprised if this was within 20, 25 points.
We'll get to that on Wednesday. Next question here from Maddie.
Yes,
Ice.
Not my official prediction.
Okay. Next question from Maddie Ice. Since Bo has been getting a lot of run late in games, we've already won. Do you get frustrated that we haven't really let him throw the ball? We all know he's a great runner and athlete, but we still haven't seen him pass the ball with significant volume. Matt, I think this is a really good point, right? We haven't seen him throw the ball very much. You also have to walk that careful line of trying to get the game over with while also getting your guys some meaningful time. I will say this. I don't think, like, let's say Drew Aller, I don't know, has a tummy ache and comes out for a drive. If Bo Prabila comes in a game when the game hasn't been decided, I don't think you're going to see much difference from what we've seen in the fourth quarter. Like, Bo Prabila is going to come on the field, and I'm going to give him more credit than like calling him a Taysom Hill type, but he's not far behind. Like, they are going to run the rock with him if he's on the field because they believe with Bo Prabila as a runner, all 11 guys are now accounted for. There's no free blockers. And so they believe Bo Prabila can beat one of your guys and take it all the way for the end zone or at least get a first down. So they are going to run the rock if Bo Prabila had to come into the game when it wasn't decided. But I do agree with the sentiment that I wish we could see him throw the ball very much. Oh man, I can't talk. I do wish we would see him throw the ball more. But I don't know how great he is at actually throwing the football, to be honest with you, just straight up. And so it is annoying, but they are practicing what they would do if he had to come into the game. So that scares you a little bit. Yeah, probably.
If that's the offense we're going to run, if Bo has to come in, that does scare me a lot because it feels like we run the same 6 plays with him, and 2 or 3 of them are him running the ball. And it's just there's just such a big difference between what we give to Drew to run and what we give to Bo to run. And look, last season, when we put Drew Aller in the game, we let Drew cook a little bit. Now, again, he was coming in a mop-up duty, so we ran the ball more than we threw the ball. But Drew had, 60 pass attempts going into this season? I mean, Bo isn't going to be anywhere near that. Now, are they different quarterbacks? Of course. But I do wonder how limited of a passer he is. And that's always been my concern with Bo. We always knew he could run. But I worry about just how limited of a passer he is. And I don't know, but I don't want to speculate too much because we never really gave him the chance to. He hasn't gotten the chance yet to show what he could do as a potential starter. So maybe there are some things we're holding back with him.
I'm sure there are some, but John, I don't think it's Like, I don't think he's going to run the Drew Aller offense, to be honest with you.
No. There are
I
some
think
throws that Drew makes that I just don't think he could.
no. We're on the same page there.
Yeah.
Don't want to answer this question, but I want to give a shout out to Lucas Powers. He asked, how long can we put up with Caden Saunders at punt return? He has a bad habit of fielding every punt. Well, you should field 90% of the punts. The only punt you really shouldn't try to catch is the one that's at the 5-yard line. Like, you want to run into traffic and catch that ball if you can, because it prevents the bounce. So you want to go, as scary as it is for you and I to see them do that, that is actually what you're supposed to do. You just can't muff it. So I don't think there's going to be any change there with Caden Saunders. I think he'll get the benefit of the doubt for being Torrey Taylor, who's punting him the football. The number of punts he had to catch in the rain, and does he need to get better? Yes, but I don't think you're going to see a change there.
I don't either. I think he just has to yeah, like you said, inside the 5, anytime you're inside like the 7-yard line, I think you have to be very careful about catching the ball.
10-yard line or less,
yeah,
let it go.
Yeah. I mean, because again, what's the difference between starting at the 7 and starting at the 3? Now, is there a difference? Yes, but I'd rather take my chances where you could start at the 20. So, and most of the time, especially with college punters, the ball's going to keep rolling. So, I mean, there are some guys like first half of the season, 2022, Barney O'Moore, where it was like he was a golfer with how precise he was. But very, very often, if a punt lands inside the like you said, the 10-yard line or inside the 5, especially, that ball's just going to roll in the end zone.
Yeah, and now there's certain situations where, if they're punting from our own 40-yard line and those gunners are going to get down there, that's a different conversation, right? Because now they're probably going to be behind you. But if they're still in front of you, let it go. This is from Saquon McCutcheon. Who should be wide receiver 2 right now? / who has earned more snaps? Keandre Lambert-Smith is clearly number 1, but this is the biggest weakness moving forward, in my opinion. I would disagree with you in the sense that when Trey Wallace is healthy, I think they're okay at wide receiver 2. When he's banged up, offensively, I agree with you. Like, that number 2 wide receiver is probably the question mark. But I'm assuming that Trey Wallace is going to get healthy here soon. And the fact that he was able to go means he's getting better. So I'm going to say that that's not the concern. But just in general, you would like to see that third wide receiver step up. We've seen some good things from a bunch of different guys. I'm still holding out that Amari Evans is the guy once he gets healthy. He had a couple of drops, but I got full belief. I'm going to double down on Amari Evans continuing to develop. But I just showed you guys the numbers. It seems like they're going to get the ball to a lot of different guys. It's going to be a replace them in the aggregate kind of thing when it comes to that wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2. And it's not going to be just one guy. You got Keandre Lambert-Smith as your go-to guy. And then who else can step up? Who else can be that role player from time to time? In that red zone, it's clear they're going to go to Ty Warren. But elsewhere, you need to have someone step up on the outside. I am just hoping that Trey Wallace gets healthy soon.
Yeah, I think the plan is you ride with KLS, obviously, as your 1. And things do feel a lot more stable when Harrison Wallace is there. And then the third guy is really the tight ends, either Tyler Warren or Theo Johnson, at least most of the time. And if it's not them, it's going to be some kind of combination of Dante Cephas or Liam Clifford or Malik McClain. So it's just going to be a bunch of different guys. But I'm actually comfortable with that. But where things could look ugly at times is when if you don't have Harrison Wallace, or if you by any chance didn't have Keandre Lambert-Smith. Like, it's more you don't have a lot of guys you could trust. There's only 2 guys I really trust at wide receiver, and that does make me feel a little uneasy. So it's really wide receiver 3 that I'd be more concerned about.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Brennan Malinovich, his question is, in watching the Iowa game, Wormley struggled from time to time. I think Ione has done a fantastic job as a backup. Do you think it's time to let Ione start over Wormley? I don't think you mess with what you have right now, just to be honest with you. I'll show some film room tomorrow. They actually did a pretty good job. Iowa did some stunts. They actually did a pretty good job communicating. And that sometimes stunting is not a skill thing as much as it's a communication thing. And so if you have some sort of unity in that starting 5, I think you kind of have to roll with it. But Ione's played a decent amount as it is. I like Wormley. I think Wormley and Caden Wallace actually have a pretty good rapport with one another there on the right side. So especially and when Wormley's allowed to pull. So I would say no. So I think Wormley does offer maybe a little bit more athleticism when he pulls. But there is some things that need to be cleaned up. And there's one play specifically I'll show tomorrow on Twitter that proves your point. But no, I don't think you make the switch right now. But I think it's a good thing to keep in mind moving forward.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And look, Big Ione is going to play a lot of football at Penn State, and he already is. I mean, he plays near starter reps. So he plays a ton. I do think Sal Wormley probably the weak link, the weak link on that offensive line right now. But has he been horrible? I wouldn't say so. I think he's been all right. But I do understand your point. But right now, I largely agree with Cory. We just dominated a very physical offense or defensive line and defense in the Iowa Hawkeyes. So I'm comfortable with the rotation as it stands right now.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys all for the questions. A lot of fan questions this week. We appreciate it. We are pretty much wrapped up here. Again, make sure you've liked the video and you've subscribed to State Media. Subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. We'll be back on Wednesday to preview Northwestern. You have a little bit of time to relax now. You got Northwestern, and then, a bye, and then UMass. So you got some time to kind of recover a little bit, maybe get some things done out in the yard, whatever you need to do. But we shall be here. We're not going anywhere. So we'll have the film breakdown out tomorrow. We'll be back live on Wednesday. Make sure if you haven't, get your picks in. A little friendly reminder now to get your picks in.
I got to do that. Yep.
Sean, you had your picks in early last week.
I did. I've been good with these, but I worked at the office today, so I didn't really have time to get to them.
Yeah. Can you imagine having to watch the Iowa-Michigan State NBC Saturday night game this week?
Yeah, they give NBC like the equivalent to the Thursday night football games, where it's just like, yeah, here you go. Our game has been maybe the best that they've had.
The West Virginia game?
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't even
still
that good.
A 23-point win. So, but at least there was some fireworks. There was some excitement.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting too many fireworks.
I don't know if I'll watch the Iowa-Michigan State game, but
I think there's a good game on 7:30. Duke Notre Dame, I believe, is 7:30 on ABC. So might be checking that out.
Okay. Any other things before we get out of here?
No. Again, I just want to give a shout out to the fans for creating that environment. Shout out to Cory for being there. I know he definitely contributed. Yeah. Again, enjoy this one, guys. I can't emphasize this enough. We have a really, really good team here. And there isn't that one team that I'm deathly afraid of in college football this year. And that makes me feel good. Makes me feel good going into October. And we have a really good group here. So just happy. Happy with and very happy with the Miami Dolphins as well. When your pro team scores 70,
All right.
your college team gives up 0. You're a happy man on Monday.
Sorry, I actually shout out to Cowboy Ribeye on YouTube. Also to Tyler on YouTube. They had some comments here, but I didn't see them till right now, so I apologize, gentlemen. Yes, Cowboy Ribeye just pretty much agreed with everything we said. That's about it. He thinks Cephas is going to take the next step soon.
He could. I agree with that. This is the time for him to start.
Yeah. So basically, thank you guys on YouTube for being here live with us. We like doing the shows live. It's more fun that way. And we'll be back on Wednesday. So for Sean Kane, I'm Cory Lestochi. You've been listening to Hardcore Penn State Football.